Good afternoon, Rotarians and guests. Welcome to the Rotary Club of Toledo. Today we'll have another great program from our District Governor, Maris Brenner. But before we get to that, I'd like to ask Keith Burwell to deliver a reflection and have Ryan Whitman lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Would you please stand?
Reflection for the day, and given the things I did last week while trying to fish and deal with our city council, I might need your prayers, not mine. An interesting fact before reflection, on August 20th, the day is the National Radio Day, so you can celebrate radio. It's also National Chocolate Pecan Pie Day, and I'm all for it. Also, this is unusual. Normally, July the 14th is National Nude Day, but Colorado is so into it, they have today as well.
Well, there you
Dick,
go.
I wouldn't use that as an excuse to move to Colorado, but with that said, servant leadership. Robert Greenfield used the term servant leadership in an essay he wrote back in 1966 to send to his fellow managers. The first essay was the deduction of Greenfield's personal reflection, experience, and observations concerning the current state of leadership in organizations and the reading of a metaphorical story written by Hermann Hesse. Hermann Hesse's story goes a journey to the east, tells the story of a group of pilgrims who are on this journey to discover the ultimate Eastern order. The pilgrims undergo many trials and struggles, but a loyal servant named Leo sustains them. Leo eventually leaves the journey, and which results in the rising of various self-proclaimed leaders within the group. One pilgrim, although the mission to discover the order ultimately fails, one pilgrim reunites with the faithful servant Leo and discovers that Leo was actually the leader of the Eastern Order that they had sought, according to Hesse, and that he did that through being a servant to all. So Greenfield concluded that the nature of true leadership is his willingness to be first and primarily a servant to others, and that very desire to serve others which makes one great. A servant leader is a person who has an innate desire to lead by serving, serves to align with others, align with one's own beliefs, and strives to meet the highest priorities of others. He defined it this way in the concept in 1977: a servant leader is the leader. A leader is a servant first. It begins with the natural feeling of wanting to serve. The servant first makes sure the highest priorities are the needs of others and that they are being met. And success is when those who are served become healthier, freer, more autonomous, and wiser as a result of becoming servants themselves. A servant only becomes a leader if the leader remains a servant. This is the concept by which many of us call the four-way test, I believe. So as we pray today and remember ourselves as leaders within the community, let us remember that leadership starts with service, and true leaders remain servants in their leadership role each and every day. Amen.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Keith and Ryan. As we begin today's meeting, I'd like to thank and acknowledge this month's sponsor, Spengler-Nathanson, PLL. And now I'd like to ask greeter Bob Amthor to come to the floor mic to introduce today's visiting Rotarians.
President Dick, we have two visiting Rotarians today. Visiting Rotarians, please stand as I read your name and remain standing until President Dick welcomes you. We have Ken Robinson from Perrysburg and David Dennis, the Assistant District Governor.
Thank you both for attending today. Great to have you with us. Does anyone have any guests they would like to introduce today? If so, if you'd please go to the floor mic so we can hear and see you and your guests.
Yes, President Dick. I have two guests today. Jordan, who's with the University of Toledo Launchpad Incubation, and Tom Wright with First Insurance Group.
Welcome. Good to have you here.
President Dink, fellow Rotarians, I'd like to introduce a very bright young lady, prospective member, Maria Schmalzried from ProMedica. She's executive director of their foundation.
Welcome. Nice to have you here.
President Dick, fellow Rotarians, I'd like to introduce Lisa Wagner, and she is with Monroe Bank and Trust.
Welcome.
President Dick, we have Connor Hartnett with us today. He's a sales rep at Jupe Mode.
President Dick, I'd like to introduce Archie Heinel. He's the president of AA Solutions.
Welcome to all of you. It's great to have you here today. Now would be a great time to check into social media to let everyone know you're at the Rotary Club of Toledo. And then I ask you to turn off your phones, please, so you can fully enjoy today's meeting. Last week, I recognized a couple of Rotarians who were very instrumental in Jeep Fest, and I unfortunately missed somebody who's also a member, Cindy Kerr, who was with Destination of Toledo, had a great deal to do with the success of Jeep Fest, so I'd like to acknowledge Cindy's work in that too. At this time, I'd like to invite Zach Isaac to the podium to introduce new member Dr. Cheryl McCullum-Smith and to make a brief announcement.
Thanks, Dick. Before I introduce Dr. McCullum-Smith, I wanted to, thank Shireen Murad publicly. She's one of our vice chairman of our new member committees. We had a wonderful after hours last Thursday at the H2O Cafe. She did it all. She brought the food. We had over 40 people there, I think we counted, notwithstanding the rain, but it was a great turnout. We thank everyone that came. Also pleased to report that there were several prospective members that have both told me and President Dick and other people that they have an intention of joining Rotary. Dick did a nice job sharing with them what Rotary is all about. So I guess we encourage you for the next one we have. It was on the schedule. I'm not sure where we're going to have that, but it was a great after hours, so we encourage everybody to get there. Also want to remind our committee of the whole that we have 300 people on our new member committee. I want to encourage everybody to keep bringing guests. Our goal, as you know, as Brent said earlier, is 75 new members this year to become the 8th largest Rotary Club in the world. Here are some photos and video from the after hours last Thursday. Hey, Cheryl. Come on. Now it gives me great pleasure to introduce a brand new member, and I'm hardly adequate to share her accomplishments. This is just an amazing resume. Dr. Cheryl McCullum-Smith, MD, PhD. Cheryl received her undergraduate degree in physics at MIT. From there, she went on to get her MD, PhD at the University of Michigan. She currently is the chair and professor of the Department of Psychiatry at the University of Toledo Medical College. She is a board-certified general psychiatrist and consult liaison in psychiatry. Dr. McCullum-Smith is a member of the American Psychiatric Association, the Association of Emergency Psychiatrists, the American College of Psychiatrists, and a fellow in the Academy of Consult Liaison Psychiatry. In addition, she serves in several leadership positions on the national committees, including Emergency Psychiatry Special Interest Group, Education and Research Committees of the Academy of Neurosomatic Medicine, the Board of Directors and co-chair of the Treatment-Resistant Depression Group of the National Network of Depression Centers. Her expertise includes the treatment, resistance, depression, medically ill populations, improving quality of care, and developing novel treatment interventions for patients in psychiatric crisis. She is currently focusing on developing interventions to enable patients to connect with appropriate follow-up care with psychiatric crisis and suicide. Her husband, Rob, they both came up to the University of Cincinnati Medical College. Rob is the chairman of the neuroscience department at UTMC. And on top of all that, they have 5 children, an 8th grader, a college grad, and 3 triplets that are seniors in high school. Cheryl enjoys, outside of her academic career, writing, yoga, and soccer. Please welcome Dr. Cheryl McCullum-Smith.
At this time, I have the pleasure to make a major donor award from the Rotary Foundation of Rotary International. Today, the Rotary Foundation trustees and I have the honor of expressing our appreciation for a couple who have made a substantial contribution toward Rotary's mission of doing good in the world. In doing so, they support and honor the Rotary Foundation's humanitarian and educational initiatives, which make a significant difference in the lives of others. It gives me great pleasure to announce that past President Tom Backoff and his wife, Kate, have made contributions to the Rotary Foundation that qualify them as major donors. Tom and Kate, please come forward and accept our congratulations and appreciation. Tom and Kate, as major donors, you are part of a special group of donors dedicated to improving communities both near and far. In appreciation for your significant investment in the Rotary Foundation, the trustees wish to express their gratitude by presenting you with a crystal and these pins recognizing you both as major donors. Contributions like yours enable the Rotary Foundation to carry out a variety of programs through dedicated Rotarians and Rotary clubs around the globe. Together, they promote peace, fight disease, provide clean water, sustain mothers and children, improve education, and strengthen local economies. Thank you both again for your generous support. Fellow Rotarians, please stand and join me in thanking Tom and Kate for their generosity and commitment to the ideals of Rotary.
When Dick asked if we'd like to say anything, I thought, well, I've never, ever spoken at Toledo Rotary. And I had to say one thought on that. I was at a past president's dinner, I believe about 3 years ago, with Tom, and a lovely past president asked me in complete sincerity, your father has introduced the vice presidents Bush and Quayle at Rotary, Toledo Rotary. Your sister has spoken several times about her sports journalism career at Toledo Rotary, Christine Brenner. What can you speak to Toledo Rotary about? And I looked at him and said, absolutely nothing. So when Dick asked, I thought, well, what I would love to say is that this is such an honor, and we are so thrilled, Tom and I, to be part of Toledo Rotary and Rotary International. We've had the chance to be at 3 international conventions. It is such an amazing, inspiring, incredible group of people, and so we just encourage everyone to stay as involved as you can, and hopefully you can get to an international event, and thank you so much.
President Dick, District Governor Maris, thank you so much. It's quite an honor. 27 years ago, Kate's dad, Jim, introduced me to Toledo Rotary. And as a Rotarian, it was such an honor and privilege that day, and it has been every day since then. What we share is so unique and so remarkable. We are part of a club, the 9th largest Rotary club in the world. We're certainly not the 9th largest population base in the world. We're part of a club that gives $200,000 a year to great organizations in our community, in our district, and around the world. We're part of a district that it goes from Elyria down to Mansfield, comes across to Salina and the Grand Lakes, St. Mary's, that operates a magnificent distribution of medical equipment and supplies, MESA, that many members of this club helped to found. And then as an organization, we're one of 1.2 million Rotarians. As past President Walt Churchill says, the sun never sets on Rotary. And it is such an honor and a privilege to be a member of this club and to be a Rotarian. And believe me when I say you are a member, our club is for sure one of the finest Rotary clubs in the world. Thank you so much.
Thank you again, Tom and Kate. This time I'd like to invite Assistant Governor Dave Dennis to the podium to introduce our District Governor, Maris Brenner.
Thank you, President Dick. It is my privilege today to introduce District Governor Maris Brenner, originally from Quincy, Illinois, and is now at home in Sandusky, Ohio. She is a resort marketing and sales professional with 4 decades of sales experience at varying size conference centers, resorts, and hotels in destinations from California and Hawaii to Alaska, Wisconsin, Missouri, and the mountains of Virginia. The last 11 years, she led the sales and marketing team at Kalahari Resort Convention Center in Sandusky. And currently, she continues on a modified schedule at Sawmill Creek Resort in Huron. Semi-retired, Maris continues her volunteer work with community organizations, including service the last few years as president of the United Way of Erie County, trustee and past president of Lake Erie Shores and Islands Visitors Bureau, and on the steering committee for the area's largest cancer fundraiser, Girls Night Out. Maris is active on the Sandusky Bicentennial Committee, leading the planning for the once in 200 years Founder Day Bicentennial Parade. And you need to ask Maris about that because it's done. And I give her a round of applause. It's done. She's been very active serving her club and our district. A Rotarian since 2007 and past president of the Rotary Club of Sandusky, Maris is a Paul Harris Fellow Plus 5. District Governor Maris worked on both the 2015 and 2017 District 6600 Conference Committees, served as the Sandusky Rotary Charitable Fund Vice President, and is a charter member of the Eastern Squadron of the International Yachting Fellowship of Rotarians. In her year as president, Sandusky Rotary Club received a presidential citation, club builder recognition, and from Jennifer Jones and RI International, the Significant Achievement Award. As assistant governor, Maris was instrumental in helping lead District 6600 President's Councils and a shared donation of a refrigerated truck for a second harvest of North Central Ohio. The truck, proudly displaying our Rotary brand, now delivers fresh food to over 62,000 Northern Ohio residents per year. Maris has attended 3 Rotary International Conventions, Sydney, Australia, Atlanta, Georgia, and most recently, Toronto, Ontario. Maris has served on the 100-Year Foundation Wine Committee and was chair for the 100-Year Foundation Celebration Dinner. She has participated in multiple district assemblies, grant seminars, zone institutes, and as district governor-elect, helped plan the 2018 All Ohio Pets in Columbus. It is difficult to determine which personal passions take precedent, but it is not uncommon to find Maris totally immersed in fantasy football leagues each fall and finding any way to get her old English sheepdog and kitten to coexist all year long. Please stand with me and welcome our 2019 District Governor, Maris Brenner.
I have to tell you, I love this club because for someone who is vertically challenged, this is the first time I've actually been able to see above the microphones. Thank you very much. Congratulations, Tom and Kate. Your comments were touching, but as important, that is such a special level to be at. And I'm always so impressed when we have Rotarians at that level, and I know that in this club there are quite a few. Welcome, Dr. Cheryl McCullen-Smith. Again, you're on the beginning of a journey. I hope you will enjoy and benefit as much from Rotary as they will from you and your talents. President Richard, past President Sharon, Assistant Governor David Smith, past District Governor Helen, it is an honor to be here today. It is also one of the bigger challenges of a district governor of 6,600 because this is the 9th largest club in all of Rotary. That gives you a distinction that means you've probably heard a lot and you've done a lot, and therefore you already know quite a few things and have heard a lot of aha moments from district governors. So I'm going to divert a little bit just because it's something that maybe people have not shared with you. And forgive me if you did hear this, especially when Helen perhaps was going through the chairs. And that is the journey and the aha moments or the defining moments that happen when you find yourself in the role of a future district governor. In November of 2015, I had that honor to be accepted and nominated and selected as the district governor who was going to be the district governor for 2018-19. So all of a sudden in November you get the call and that smile is there, and then all of a sudden you find yourself the next month in a meeting in Columbus and you start your journey. Because in the state of Ohio there are 5 different districts, and that allows you then to go on this journey with those 5 other district governor at that time nominee designates, and you start to meet them and learn what they're thinking about. And after all, we're going to have to train our presidents, which many of you have been down to Columbus for that. We're going to have to train our presidents as a group for all Ohio pets. So you start very early in the process. And then by the next September, you have the privilege of joining in what we call the zone. And the zone is 13 different states in the U.S., kind of the central, going all the way towards Illinois and Iowa, and up to Ontario, Canada, and then around to an edge of Pennsylvania. And in that area, there are 35 different districts. So that became my first look at the classmates that I was going to be sharing the year of district governor with. So us 35 started to do our training, and it's like a 4 or 5 day training, and everybody's brought together, and past district governors come and work with you and start teaching you and some tricks of the trade and things you should do already, even though it is a couple of years down the road. And then Rotary International comes with their delegations and make sure that you know what you're talking about, which, by the way, it does take 2.5 years to really get very comfortable with it. And it's also the first time that you get to meet your Rotary International president that you are going to have the opportunity to serve with. Our Rotary International president nominee was Sam Awawi. Sam Awawi was from Uganda, Africa. He was so very, very proud that the continent of Africa was going to have a Rotary International president. He had earned that role from Rotary because he had grown the membership in his district alone by 50%. He was a dedicated Rotarian, and the service projects that he created were massive. And so it was very easy to be inspired early on, remembering we're only the district governor nominees at this point. And while he didn't know what his theme was, he did know that it was all going to be about beyond borders. In fact, we heard that over and over again. And understand, at this time, I was still with Kalahari, an African-themed resort. You could not have found a more perfect storm because I could envision the places that we got our artwork from, that we got our culture from for the resort, was something we could go give back to because Rotary was going to be full circle in my year as district governor. And that was in September, and then in June, we went to Atlanta, Georgia. And out of 534 district governors that were about to be district governor-elects, there were about 397 of us, most with spouses. And we had another chance to meet Sam and his wife and hug and talk and whatever, and understand that it's 7 different languages, so a good portion of us had earphones on. And there is multiple countries and dialects and clothing and dress, and it was so very inspiring. And he gave us one of those final messages, and once again, Beyond the Borders was part of the message. And anybody who's gone in president-elect training with me this last year knows that Beyond the Borders has really stuck with me, because it represents not just beyond the borders country-wise, it represents district-wise, club-wise, and just you as individual members. So the one thing that happens after you've gone to that international conference right before you're a district governor-elect is that you come home, and then July 1st comes, and all of a sudden, oh my gosh, you are district governor-elect, and you only have a year to go before you're district governor. And this big box comes. And in the box is all kinds of training materials for your presidents. 64 booklets, Lead Your Club, definitions and glossary. You really have to read that one, because every term in the world you have to know, right? Foundation, the 5 areas of focus, beautiful 2 big boxes, and 1 beautiful letter. The letter starts with, I am so looking forward to working with you during your year as district governor and as you prepare your presidents. And it tells you what color your jacket's going to be. So all of a sudden, I did know it was going to be navy blue, and so I'm now wearing navy blue almost every day. And it was signed Samawawi. And in the normal times, that would have been the most beautiful and joyous time as a district governor-elect. But this was a different year. Most of us had by tweet, Facebook, email, and in some cases personal phone calls, received some very sad news the Friday before we got these boxes. And that was that Sam had passed. Sam had lost his life in some surgery that had happened in Houston, and he never did make it back to Africa, the continent of Africa. He was given a state funeral. That's how special he was to Africa. And he remains very special to us district governors that are district governor this year. What he had done for 2.5 years, or a year and a half, getting ready, was behind the scenes selecting his theme, selecting the speakers, selecting his leaders, selecting all of those folks that were going to make a difference to every one of our districts and ultimately to our clubs. Now, we didn't know what our theme was, but we knew that he already knew that. We knew that in June, because he was talking about the kind of pieces of things that we would be able to get when we came to San Diego in January, because every district governor-elect, their final big training is in San Diego. So within a month, Rotary does what it does best. It adjusts and it acts, just as if for the Ebola crisis, you use the floor plan that you had created with polio, and you solved that problem by using that network that was created. So like always, they acted quickly. They got the replacement, a person who had been one of the finalists and someone who accepted the role, which was a very big role, that in 6 months, behind the scenes, they would get moved to Evanston. They would come up with the new theme. They would define and redefine the leaders for the coming year, and they would be ready to train 534 district governor-elects, who many of us already had our reservations for San Diego. We learned his name in the beginning of September, and in September had our district-elect training with our 35 zone district governors. His name was Barry Rassin, and he was from the island of the Bahamas. He got his intro, or his aha moment of Rotary, when the Haiti earthquake hit. Ironically, that was the year I was president of my club, and you may remember that was when Rex Engel asked us all to get and buy shelter boxes so that we could help people in Haiti. Well, the person on behalf of Rotary was the current district governor there in the Bahamas, in the Caribbean, and he's the one through his health network who rallied the planes, got everything delivered, and got them off to Haiti, and still to this day takes care of the entire Caribbean when it comes to anything that Rotary does in terms of rescue work, service, or support. So he's a pretty impressive Rotary International president-elect that we're meeting for the first time. And though he did look a little tired in September, we were looking forward to seeing him again in San Diego. And then San Diego hits. Oh my gosh, that's the last step for district governors. You go, there's 534 of you. Most of you have spouses. That means there's over 1,100 that are definitely related to getting the first message. And every day you're going to have 2 sessions that are going to be all of you together. And then all the other times, imagine this, they divide you in breakouts of 20. And you are never in a breakout with the same people. And you are always in a breakout where people are speaking English. Don't know how they do it, but it's got to be the most fascinating network. And your name tag tells you all this. And you have to sit in your seat, because if you don't sit in your seat, they won't pay your way. They might send you home. That would not be good, by the way. But bottom line is you get there, and it's Sunday, and you're about to hear your theme. And needless to say, we were all curious at what the theme was going to be, especially knowing that it had kind of been redesigned at the last moment. And then we walked in this room, and there's 1,500 people, that 1,100 that are directly related to the DGEs, 7 different languages, some with their headphones on, 212 countries. Beautiful, everybody enthusiastic, and you sat in this seat of theater style, all scrunched together, and it was even scrunchier because in front of you was this big drum. Every one of us had a big drum. Not this little drum, but a big drum, a big Congo drum. And all of a sudden, crazy lady comes out, dressed in a little bit of gown, a little ball microphone right there coming out of her ear, and she starts going. And the whole room starts beating and beating and beating. And any of you in your companies or organizations or meetings who have ever done a drum circle know how contagious and how crazy that can be when everybody is beating together in the same way. And then she started getting crazy. She'd shut us up over here, and then she'd keep this one going, and then she got mad at us when we didn't stop in time. And go back and forth and back and forth. And we kept beating together. And then half the room stopped, and she says, listen. And we listened. And our drums were still beating. Our drums were still beating. Because that's what happens when you have the heartbeat and the drum beat that happens in Rotary, that happens in life, and happens in a drum circle. The sound is contagious, and it keeps going, and it goes on and on and on. Sam's with us this year. He's with us because the heartbeat of Rotary, is the heartbeat of every one of our members, no matter what country you're in. And that was such an exhilarating beginning, and I think for many of us, a sigh of relief, because Sam was not going to be forgotten. Part of what we were going to do this year was going to be able to carry on his thought and his image and his music as well. Then Barry came on stage. Now I got to tell you that the Bahamian music and Jamaica Me Crazy kind of music is very different than this. We waited a couple of days to get the most of that. He wanted to carry on that drum beat, that sound, into the introduction of our theme. And so we introduced the theme, Be the Inspiration. Be the Inspiration was all about his perspective and his wife's perspective from an island community. It's got the wave, and that is all about the wave of water. And it's got the sunsets. It never sets. It never sets on Rotary, does it? We're all around the world, and we're connected by water. It's 85% of the world, water. And how many of the countries and projects we do have to do with water? And how many people here remember, or perhaps even know, because I sure didn't, that one of the first two projects that Paul Harris and his very new members of Rotary, as they were rotating around restaurants and finding business people and professionals to join them in their quest to do business and work with each other, but also to do good. One of their first two projects was first to buy a horse for a farmer that had lost his horse right before taking his goods to market. And secondly, it was the time that there was not a lot of indoor plumbing. And so in downtown Chicago, that meant that women could not come to downtown Chicago because there weren't even latrines in downtown Chicago. And obviously, that created a very big problem, which meant that you always were going to have a situation where a whole family could not comfortably come to downtown Chicago or to the business district of Chicago or even to the beaches conveniently. So that project was to deliver latrines. I call them latrines. There's probably a better term for it, where women could be able to go while they were with their husbands or their friends when they visited the downtown area of Chicago. Think of the vision that that is all about. Think of also what we do now. What are some of the best projects we have done? What are the best projects that you've been involved in? Sri Lanka? It was all about water. Safe water, saving children's lives. The Haiti project, safe water, filtered water. We haven't really come that far or that differently from where we started. That is one of the areas of focus. And whether you're in a country that is dealing with water because it's scarce, or whether you're in an area like ours where we're dealing with algae bloom and the carps and things that can forever destroy our lake, water does connect us all. I think Barry kind of had that right. Now, I'd be remiss if I didn't also give you my personal journey, because I believe that most of us do that. So I'm going to jump back really quickly to Sandusky, Ohio. When I arrived in town, Kalahari was only known as a water park. In fact, I only knew it as a water park until they convinced me to come and join the force to open up a convention center. And as a salesperson does, as a director of sales does, partly you do a little research and you try to find out who to talk to, where to go. And I'll forever be indebted to Lance Warner, who is an investment person in the Sandusky area, who said to me, well, you can go to the chamber. He said, but you know what? You also have to go and attend Rotary meetings. Everybody that is anybody is at a Rotary meeting. The people that are most invested in this community, the people that are leading our schools, the people that are leading our nonprofits, the folks that are making a difference in the community, the politicos, and the leaders, and some who are retired, are in Rotary. So I started going as his guest, and luckily a few other people would ask me, because truly, and I have never been shy about saying this, to me at that time, Rotary was 100 rooms here, 500 rooms here, a banquet here. It was business. It was a business-to-business organization, and I was meeting the most awesome people in the community. And I was meeting the head of United Way, and then all of a sudden I found myself on the board. And then all of a sudden I would meet this person who did this cancer event. They were looking for a new location so they could grow. And so all of a sudden it was at Kalahari, but I was on the board. And all of a sudden I was doing this over here, and then I was on the board of the chamber. And I mean, business is really not just about business anyway. It's about people. It's about relationships. And so my table at Rotary as you once in a while you have tables that you kind of sit with. A few of you are probably at the same table that maybe you were last week. The table I sat with was the head of the chamber, the head of United Way, and then as I got on boards, those folks would be on that table as well. But the bottom line is, to me, that was Rotary for a couple of years. And I didn't make every meeting, but I got there if I could for those good speakers. But I didn't make it all the time. And then my husband got ill in January unexpectedly, and he ended up at the University of Toledo Hospital. And so in addition to not being very good at attending meetings, I was also now really almost living in Toledo while we were going through this crisis. But on Thursdays, I was determined to come back. I was determined to come back because now business in Rotary wasn't really what it was about. It was, these were the people that I could sit with at a table, and I could listen to the speech, and I could lose myself with them, and I knew they cared about me, and I knew they cared about Al, and I didn't have to think about anything else. I could just be there. Well, another month went by, and on the day of our poker tournament, which, as you can imagine, when you volunteer for these things, now most events, you do have a schedule when you volunteer, but in a poker tournament, poker players are crazy. They keep playing, and they keep playing and playing and playing. And so a lot of Rotarians that were volunteering till 3 a.m. in the morning and whatever. And so it was the Friday of the poker tournament, and it was at Kalahari. But more importantly, we were going to make a lot of money for Rotary to go buy clothes for kids and shop with them. But Al happened to die that morning. And I thought about, of all the days, I would be so alone because everybody would be at the poker tournament for this whole weekend and whatever. But somehow, the table, the club, the friends that I had grown and become and shopped for kids with became the family that so many of us know. And whether it was a text or whether it was a phone call or whether it was something on Facebook or an email or popping by the house, every hour there was someone touching bases with me, even at 3 a.m. in the morning to make sure I was still okay. All weekend long. It was a holiday weekend, so all weekend long. And defining moment, personal, Rotary is family. Awesome family. And for that next 6 months, when you're kind of adjusting and getting your legs back on the ground, that family, the widows and widowers in particular, embraced me and made me go out to breakfast and lunch and dinner and do this and do that, and decided that it would be a good time for me to be on the board of directors because, of course, I had more time now. And I got on the board of directors. And I got to tell you, they get you. I mean, they get you. Once you're on that board of directors, and this board of directors is exactly the same way. I can see the trail to the presidency. But on the board of directors, all I ever wanted to be was a program chair. I was so sure as a hotel person I could get all these great programs going. So I volunteered to be the program chair. And when I got installed, they said, and she will be president in 2014-15. And I'm sure that everybody saw my face and everybody knew exactly what was happening there. Nobody had mentioned that part of being the program chair meant that your next step was being first vice president and your next step was being president. It was the best decision I ever made to accept being program chair. We had some pretty good programs, but most of all, I had a journey of a lifetime getting to be president of a club and going to Australia to my first international convention because that was part of the steps in our club. And at that international convention, I had District 6600 on my name tag, and I was so amazed at all of the international dress and wear. So I came up to a couple of Africans in their dress and taking the picture because it was just so beautiful, so magnificent looking. And this gentleman comes up and he hugs me, and he's hugging me. And I'm thinking, I just took a picture. That's all I did. I took a picture. So I'm trying to figure this out, and he keeps saying, thank you. We, District 6600, Mesa, had provided kidney dialysis machines to Nigeria and saved a lot of lives. And he just happened to be from the Rotary Club that received those dialysis machines. The Rotary world is so very small. Defining moment, done. What's your defining moment? I know every one of you have one. Every one of you have a story. The challenge that I would like to ask you is that because you are such a powerful club and you have been able to do so many things, reach out to some of the clubs that are not as large as you. Find a way to go maybe see their meeting, and then when you're there, invite them back. Offer to do some things with them, because many of you have already been there, done that. In these smaller communities, they don't even know how to think beyond their borders. Beyond the borders is still the message this year. It's just a different part of it. It's about growing the membership and knowing that whether you're young or old, or whether you're donating your $125 a year, your E-Ray, that every time you do that, everything that's done in Rotary, wherever it's at, it's probably a piece of your dollar. It's a piece of your $125 that did it. When the vaccination is being done, when the water well is being built, when the kidney dialysis machine gets there, you all did it. So the heartbeat of Rotary, nobody can tell you anything different, is every one of you. It's our clubs, and it's you personally. And I just have to tell you that it is such a privilege and an honor to be in front of the 9th largest club in Rotary, which I know that by the end of the year will be at least the 8th largest club in Rotary, because I heard that from the board today, so I'm really confident that that will happen. I do want to thank you very much. Asante, that's thank you in Swahili. But most of all, I want to thank you again for the privilege of being in the same district with you, who really do understand what it is to be a Rotarian and what it is to make a difference beyond the borders. Thank you very much for the honor of talking. Thank you, Mary.
I'm going to ask Kathy if we have room in the budget for 400 conga drums, I think. Thank you, District Governor Maris, for today's great program. To show our appreciation, our foundation is going to make a donation in your name to the Polio Plus Fund of Rotary International. And we have a couple other gifts for you. A little gift ensemble here that we'd like you to have. And for both you and Dave for being here, we have a book on historical tales of Toledo. So we thank you both. Thank you again. We appreciate it. Please join us next week when our speaker will be Michael Dempsey, president of Altcoin Science. We have 2 committee meetings immediately following our adjournment: community service in the North Cape room and vocational service in the Presque Isle room. As a reminder, anybody here is invited to attend one of those meetings to check out the grant vetting process that our service committees are going through and to see how it works to move toward the next step. And I invite you to stop into any committee meeting that you might see along the way so you can learn about the committee and maybe find the committee that fits your passion with Toledo Rotary. Thank you, Zach, again for introducing another new member. Welcome again, Cheryl. It's great to have you with us. Tom and Kate, again, congratulations and thank you for your dedication. And I would like to invite our good humor man, who tells me he has a lot of great material today, most of which can't be used. So,
There are a couple that, no, I can't. Mr. President, with your permission, I just thought it was nice to see past President and honorary member Dick Anderson back at the meeting today.
Yes, it is, Dick. Thank you.
Phyllis Diller was another iconic American comedian. Born in Lima, Ohio in 1917, she died on this date, 95 years later. I found so many examples of her wit that I was in humor heaven, but I've managed to reduce them and I had to eliminate a couple, yeah. So here we go. Phyllis Diller, marry a man your own age. As your beauty fades, so will his eyesight. Cleaning your house while your kids are still growing is like shoveling the walk before it stops snowing. We had far too many kids. At one point, we have far too many kids. At one point, our playpen was standing room only. It looked like a bus stop for midgets. I've been asked to say a couple of words about my husband, Fang. How about short and cheap? If your house is really a mess and a stranger comes to the door, greet him with, "Who could have done this? We have no enemies." The real reason your golf pro tells you to keep your head down is so you can't see him laughing at you. And the best way to get rid of kitchen odors, eat out.
Thank you, Chuck. I want to remind you to be servants out there so we can be the inspiration. Thank you. We are adjourned. So you may want